going on with you, man? You've got a comic you're working on, right? Or you're about to start selling?
Yeah, we're about I'd say more than 2/3 of the way through making it, and it's supposed to be a 6-part series in total. It's each issue is gonna have like a different artist doing the line work, but it'll have the same colorist and the same letterer, so it'll have kind of like a steady feel. And each issue is also going to be self-contained, so that way, even though there's a steady story going on, it kind of anyone could jump on at any time during the 6 issues, or even just grab one and get a whole story out of it. There's
Awesome.
this kind of approach nowadays that I stumbled across. It was such a great term for it. It's nowadays a lot of comics have like decompressed storytelling, where the idea is that like you tell as little story as possible over the course of an issue. You know, it makes me think of like Dragon Ball Z during some parts.
Yeah, like they're kind of planning for a long run, so they're like, don't rush it.
Yeah, and so they do like maybe 3-4 panels a page, you know, and it made me think about how someone commented on my book and was like, wow, you have 9 panels on that page. And I started looking at, you know, because I'm working on sort of act 1 of the first 4 issues. The line work is done for. And then I went back and now I'm trying to finish the first one.
Damn.
And so just to kind of showcase the different artists and the different styles of storytelling. And across all the artists, there were at least a few pages where there were like 9 panels. And I'm like, I guess that's just how I kind of page things out. You know, I was always a huge fan of Watchmen and Alan Moore.
That's exactly what I was thinking the whole time, is like, this reminds me of Watchmen. There's just the consistently 9 paneled pages, basically. Yeah, I've got a little information about it here. Do you want to look at it, talk about it?
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. I should probably get my screen sharing situation going.
It was really cool working with a bunch of different artists because, you know, I got in contact. I made a cover. I had a cover made for all 6 issues. So I've been in contact with all 6 artists. And the one for the 6th issue, I told him I was thinking of doing like a mini bust, like a 3D mini bust. And he just got inspired and banged something out and was like, what do you think about this? And I was like, oh, let's do it. We got to do it. So that is the first act of the first issue. That would be like the inside cover, right? Or no, that's the back cover right there.
Gotcha. So what is like? What is Low Midnight of the Mind? Is that the your publishing brand, or what is that?
Well, the idea is to kind of make that sort of Weird West universe, you know, instead of High Noon, it's Low Midnight.
Oh, I see. That's clever. Got of the mind.
Right, of the mind.
I dig it. I'm not trying to mock it. It's actually
no, for sure. And so that first thing we're looking at right there, that's supposed to be like a back cover, because, you know, when I go to a comic store, there's so many different books there, and I wish I could pick them up like a regular book at a bookstore and go to the back and see what's in here. What is this about? Like a little summary. So
that's true. I mean, you typically can with like trades and collected editions, but not individual issues, for sure. It's a good point. Good call, man. You know, and again, not to get into any specifics, but there are chud comic book creators who, you know, it's like the narrative around them is that they are the entirety of independent comics. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, they support indie comics. You don't support indie comics. You're only for the mainstream stuff. And it's like, hold on, no. It's not that. It's not that we don't support indie comics. It's that we don't support your indie comics.
Right. I mean, there's a huge indie comic world. And like, even amongst, you know, nowadays, it's actually pretty cool. I don't remember. Maybe I just didn't notice because I was a kid. But when I go to the stores nowadays, there's so many different publishers.
Oh, there's definitely more now, I think. I mean, there was a lot of come and gone. I remember when I was a kid, I would see stuff from those, you know, more indie or at least like Dynamite and stuff like that. I would see advertisements for it or whatever, or see it in the comic book store, and it just, I don't know, it struck me as maybe I was just too Marvel brained or something, you know, where it's like it didn't seem like it was for me. And now, of course, I've gone back and looked at a lot of that stuff, read a lot of that stuff, and been like, man, what was I thinking? Missing this. And then some of it, I'm like, nah, I'm glad I should have stayed away. But
You ever see a book called Scud the Disposable Assassin?
I remember Scud. Yeah,
That was
I,
actually pretty cool.
I mean, I saw like if you read Wizard magazine, you would see a lot of this stuff throughout. They would talk about it. And I used to just read Wizard magazines cover to cover, even if I wasn't interested in the subject or whatever. It was just I loved it. But all right, so the name of the comic is The Dead Draw.
So that's the specific issue title. The
I see.
series
I see.
is, so that's the cover right there.
Gotcha. Oh shit! Yeah, that's dope. Let's look at that. Nice.
So it's called The Return of Jake Sunrise. And this issue is called The Dead Draw.
That's really, really good art, man.
And the logos are all done up by the same guy that I'm going to be working with on the 6th issue. I originally had a previous logo done, and he saw it and was like, "Hey, let me take a crack at it." Guy's got multi talents. He's got it across the board.
So yeah, you are obviously the writer. You do the words. And then you said you've got several artists throughout the run, or?
Yeah, so that first one is someone I met, I believe, through Facebook, and he's based out of Indonesia, along with the Flatter as well. He's also based out of Indonesia. And then the colorist.
What is the Flatter?
So like that's something I didn't know. I've been reading comics how many years? I didn't know what it was, and maybe it didn't exist before. I was just looking at an original comic page that I bought back when I was young and went to conventions, and it's like watercolor on paper. This is all like digital.
Yeah. So it's kind of more like backgrounds kind of thing.
Well, the Flatter goes in and lays it out on Photoshop so that if I want to just select Jake, I can just select him. And then on a different layer, if I want to select just the pouch around his neck, I could just select the pouch around his neck. And then the colorist, it makes their job a whole ton easier. And they
imagine so.
Do colors.
It's like, so if somebody makes a mistake, you don't have to basically start the whole page over again. Right? You can just kind of isolate the element that you need to work on or remove or change or whatever. And then.
Absolutely. And like this cover in particular was really hard to get what I was thinking of, right? And I didn't really have like a specific thought. I just wanted a lot of contrast.
Yeah.
And so I wound up combining layers of different coloring versions of it and just doing like different effects to it until the different layers of versions of it came out like that. And that was only possible because it had all these different layers on it. Or like you see how his hat's in front of the logo right there. That's because you have a Flatter. So you can go in and just select that hat and then like erase the logo for that part. If that makes sense. You're muted.
It makes sense as much as it can to me, who really doesn't know much about art as far as like making it happen. I used to draw comic book stuff. Like I would draw my own heroes and shit up until probably like when I was 15, when I got into playing guitar and pretty much everything else went away. But yeah, but I never like
similar to my visual arts history.
Now, so is this book woke, Dean?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just kidding. That's not really a real question.
But. I think woke is a brand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was just saying because this is definitely, kind of objectifying women, and I thought that was no longer allowed in comic books.
Well, I don't want to spoil it. But, this specific issue, I had first worked with this artist on something else that I'm working on that I'm hoping to do like a motion comic with. So it's kind of a longer process, and I'm doing it more like a web comic. And so I was working with them on that, and I was seeing how they drew women, and I was like, okay, I'm going to write the first issue with a woman in it because that always seems to like get people's attention a little bit more. But there's a twist in the story that kind of, it's bait, more or less, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, it's a bait and switch is what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, it looks really freaking good. And, obviously the woman is not hard to look at.
Not at all. But, that's her strength.
man, it's just impressive. Everything from the dress to the hair to the rocks to the sky. Jeez, it's
This
good stuff, man.
artist is an incredible skill. I mean, they say they're an amateur, but I don't know how you can say that.
I mean, he's better than some people that I see call themselves pros. You know, so I guess that term is subjective. I also really like the layout. It's kind of unique framings here.
Well, and you know, he's incredibly patient. Bray essentially, my original scripts just looked like a novel. And, and he worked with it and didn't say anything. And then when I showed it to an editor, the editor was like, you know, you got to do this and this and this and make it easier for them. So at first, he wasn't doing it off any descriptions. He was reading it like it was a short story and just drawing it.
Dude, this is so cool. I don't know if I've ever seen. I mean, I've seen similar, but like this seems like a really cool evolution of this style of paneling. Because
especially that little look at that one at the very, very end.
Right. That's what I'm saying,
right?
because it really conveys the I'm trapped feeling, like she's more and more trapped, and now she's just buried. That's brilliant. Really good. Good stuff.
And this colorist is also the same colorist I was working on the other project with. He's based out of Argentina.
So when you said this is going to be, is it already being funded or what?
Well, I mean, I started the Kickstarter on Friday, and we're 39% of the way.
Did you send me that link in Discord and I missed it? Or
let me see. But I mean, you know how I'm doing it is I'm just like self-funding it. You know, I work as a teacher, but I'm delivering pizzas at night. I'm teaching guitar on the weekends. You know, doing whatever I can just to pay for it, because it's hard to pitch something when you don't have a product.
True, and it's you know and it's hard to get artist collaborators if you can't pay them.
Yeah, you know, I'm a very pro worker type of person.
Yep.
And I
mean,
ask anyone except myself to work for myself, you know, to work for free. I would only ask myself to work for me for free.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't ever ask artists to work, on speculation that you can pay them later. By the way, anybody that's listening, and
nah, not even commission too. And you know, I mean, if they want to take, like, if the artist decides they want to take a risk and go percentage because they think you're going to get a big, you know, reward at the end, then that's on them. But I wouldn't offer that to any artist.
True. I mean,
you're asking someone, you know.
I mean, like if it's somebody that knows you and you're like good friends and you come up with this concept together, then that's one thing, because then you both have kind of invested in it equally from the start, and you both believe in it together and stuff. That's one thing. You make an agreement and there you go. But yeah, don't ever just approach anybody like, hey man, I got this comic idea. It's going to be great. I'll pay you $1 million whenever we get rich.
Right.
So, all right. Here we've got Kickstarter page. Grab that link and put it in chat right now. So if anybody is interested in checking that out, let's see, you've got $981 of a $2,500 goal, which is a very reasonable goal.
Yeah, you know, like that goal is just to fund the Kickstarter itself, essentially, and give me some extra like merch and comics that I can then go like sell at conventions or to stores, stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, it's good kind of step-by-step approach. Yeah, I mean, I just really like the originality of the logo, the designs, the coloring of between the different objects and characters and stuff. All looks great, man. Very well executed, it looks like.
Yeah.
So the return of Jake Sunrise is a series of 6 self-contained stories, each featuring line work by a unique artist, set in the low midnight of the mind, a weird westland cursed by the supernatural. These stories are intended for the adult reader, but made to remain accessible to many young readers as well. So you mean like kind of like teen and up kind of thing? Or
you know, like my day job's as like a middle school teacher, and like middle school is really hard to find stuff that they could be interested in because it's either kind of too adult or too kiddish. And, you know, I also feel like a lot of adults read comic books that were made for kids. And then they'll kind of talk about how it's cringy or maybe heavy handed with a message. And it's like, yeah, because it's for kids. So I wanted to make something that was like for adults, but with the knowledge that like kids are going to see it, and kids could read it and become interested in reading by seeing something that's not written for kids. Kind of like, I mean, I grew up reading like Claremont's X-Men, you know, and while reading it, there were times I was like, this is definitely for adults because I had no idea what's going on.
But
You know what I
it
mean?
wasn't anything. It wasn't like anything obscene or explicit either, right? Like,
Right. It had none of
um,
that kind of stuff that is quite frankly just put in stories as like chum to get people to watch. But I mean, people have been doing that since Shakespeare.
true. You know, although it just asterisk there, there's in hindsight, there's some pretty cringe panels with Ileana and Professor X, and you know, when she was just a little kid. But that's, you know, neither here nor there. He didn't do that. I guess I don't know if he wrote that into the script or what, but like, yeah, anyway. Um, let's see. So where was it? Oh, the eponymous protagonist is a speechless bounty hunting vaquero. Infamous. What's a vaquero?
It's like the original cowboys, you know, the Mexican cowboys.
Oh, cool, cool. Infamously renowned and long thought retired or dead. Those few who have witnessed his work and survived dare not speak of his werewolf's curse. Oh, so he's a werewolf too. Cowboy werewolf. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I sort of buried the lead a little bit there.
No, I mean, I like it. I like, you know, because look, I was drawn in just by the art and the setting and everything, and then you read a little bit and you're like, oh, he's a fucking werewolf too. That's I'm sold. uh, I mean, and then you start mentioning mystic cults, poltergeists, cannibal mutant hillbillies, vampire circus, Sasquatch, reanimated dead. Good times, man. I didn't realize that this was going to be so on theme for October and Halloween and stuff. So
Yeah, right. It's perfect for this time of year.
but yeah.
And there's
Oh,
different covers right there. So we got on the left, that's going to be the cover for the black and white. And I'm going to have the inside printed so that it kind of looks like newsprint.
nice.
And so I want to do a black and white version because like horror always hits a little different when it's black and white. So I want to do a run of those.
So we got Reggie, Sketchy Got Hands, just pledged.
Oh,
Fool of a
nice. Thanks,
Took,
Sketchy.
just pledged.
Thanks,
Hell yeah.
fool.
Thank you guys. Thank you for supporting clearly high quality work by someone who really cares about what he's doing.
Yeah, you know, like it's a real labor of love, man. For me, like comics, sometimes, you know, to talk about like what you're talking about a little bit on theme is like the gatekeeping and stuff. Is I think some of it starts with people being like Marvel or DC, Marvel or DC. And like the reality is that's kind of like, you know, rooting for which kaiju you want to win as they destroy your city. Especially
Right.
nowadays because they're owned by like big giant international corporations, you know.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is too that they other than like the bean counters, basically, like those companies don't even see each other as, you know, like nemesis or anything. If they ever did, they don't now, because like they're essentially both are necessary to maintain the industry at this point.
For
Um,
variety's sake at the very least, right?
yeah, but I mean, you know, like in the '90s, whenever the you know, the boom and bust happened, and then both of them were at risk. Marvel, I think, more so, but like, you know, then they came together and did, you know, Marvel versus DC as like a, hey, let's pull our asses out of the fire kind of thing. Um, and you know, it's a moment of triumph for the industry, but it's also just, you know, uh, money. It's just about making money and staying in business. And I understand like a friendly rivalry, which is what I think they generally have, you know, between the two of them. But like, uh, anybody that takes that seriously as if they're like, there's a, I don't know, some quality or negative quality if you don't like the right one or something, is absurd to me. Um, but yeah, man, I really like this one on the left. You said that's going to be the black and white one, the retro style.
Yeah, and if you can see it, you can't see it in that version of it because it's too small, but like it's gonna be, you know, dot colored.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, and then the one on the right is gonna be like, you know, the art cover edition.
And that's beautiful as well, man. Shit. Yeah, you have really picked out some great talent for this, man.
It's funny just how much talent's out there, huh?
Probably one of the better you know, kind of indie comics that I've seen talk to anybody anyway making.
Yeah, man. Because I mean, I think it's it's like we were saying. I think the art should speak for itself, and I like to think that if I show somebody the first, say, third of it, that they'll be motivated to come see the rest. And eventually, I'd like to have it so that if somebody can't afford to buy it in physical copy, they can still access it.
If for anybody like Perp says obviously this looks good to him, and he's not a super into comics and stuff like that, at least not experienced in it. But if you're like that and you don't have a whole lot of experience reading comics or like knowing what the difference in like quality art is and stuff, like look at these lines in the background. It's easy to overlook, but the way that this conveys motion and just like kind of energy is fucking great. And there's a lot of stuff that a lot of artists, so to speak, if you want to call them that would just avoid this. You know what I mean? And they don't depict motion very well. And it's a kind of understated skill to have that's also necessary to tell a really good action kind of story.
And kind of also knowing when to draw backgrounds and when not to, and not simply because like it's really hard.
Right. Yeah, like right here where and I look, I'm an idiot when it comes to like how to understand art like this, but it seems to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, that this kind of thing where it's there's just kind of this glowy orange, that's more like to kind of convey impact and energy, right? Like a movement.
Right. It's not because you're necessarily trying to take a shortcut, even if you do appreciate the break,
Right. Yeah. But then right here, he's kind of like he's what, slowly kind of making his way, and so there's a wall there. Yeah, it's good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'm just gonna keep looking at it, and we're not even gonna
keep scrolling.
have a conversation anymore. I'm just gonna look.
So see on that page, you can see that he's kind of fighting off his beastly instincts there in that bottom panel in the middle.
Let's see here.
He's got his red eye on the bottom there.
Oh yeah. Good stuff. Subtle.
Cool, it's kind of tough because in the first reveal, I don't want to kind of blatantly come out with that. It's a little bit like the trouble of trying to write a good Hulk story, right? Like at the end of the day, he can just change, or maybe like writing a Power Rangers or Voltron story. At the end of the day, he could just change and take care of the problem like that. But you can still write good stories within that. And
yeah, you want to have.
How do you play with that?
Yeah, exactly. You got to have kind of you just need to be able to create circumstances that either limit or restrict or give a reasonable reason why the Hulk just can't turn into the Hulk immediately and solve the problem, right?
Right, and building all that is a great challenge. Like kind of along with the fact that he never talks.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's that's definitely a challenge. I remember thinking that reading the synopsis kind of thing. I'm like, okay, so because I mean, words are such obviously a huge part in telling a story in comic that that's definitely got to be a challenge for the artist and for you when you're describing the actions and motions to still convey what's going on with him.
Yeah, there were definitely a few times where I had to be annoying and go back to the artist and say, can you change his facial expression right here?
Let's see. Yeah, Greenbird loves the art. Julian says it's better than CG comics, which that's good. Except that wasn't the goal. That's the important thing. Is
right. Like the goal is just making it happen and just trying to make it fun, make it interesting, but also put some quality behind it, and a little bit of like you want to make something that is familiar to people that they've seen before, but you also want it to feel like something new at the same time.